What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you're listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and to build it like a business. This is a very special podcast audit episode. We got my pod pal, Brenda Meller from the Enthusiastically Self-Employed podcast. She is here, and we are ready to rock. Brenda, how's it going?
I am super excited because I've been listening to you for a while, Adam. I'm super excited about today. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I'm excited too. I know you listen to the show. We've done Pod Pals. We've interacted back and forth a little bit. I think you've got a really cool brand going on, and I know you're working hard at it. So let's dive on in. And I want you to paint the picture over the next 6 to 12 months of what success might look like with your show. What are you trying to do with it? Where are you trying to get to? And what does success look like for you?
A great question. So for now, I'm kind of dabbling. It's more of like, I don't want to say a hobby, but it's more like I did the podcast because I wanted to get the podcast set up. So over the next 6 to 12 months, I'd like to be able to have a process to make sure that I'm publishing shows on a regular basis, driving up viewership or listenership, I should say, and also converting listeners to clients. Right now, I'm in the kind of the honeymoon phase, I guess, of podcasting. I'm up on episode 10, and I feel like right now I'm just doing a lot of trial and error, learning as I go. But I really don't have any system or processes in place yet to figure out how am I converting folks. So that's one of my goals.
Okay, great. And
Mhm.
I think you've got a great mindset around it so far. And just in general, I tell people your first 6 months, 9 months, a year, or even like your first 100 episodes, you're kind of just figuring out how to be a podcaster. And some people do that a little faster than others. For me, it was a slow and hard process. But that's one of my main motivations behind the show is like, let's help everyone else avoid the mistakes that I made and shorten the learning curve. So I think mindset wise is perfect. Like you just want to get really efficient at creating good content that your audience wants, kind of learning what that is, learning the best ways to
Mhm.
do that, how you can efficiently do that and still like be a human being and have a life outside of your career as an entrepreneur and your clients and all that stuff. So getting all those programs and processes put together, that is a great first, 25 episode focus point, I think. And then starting to build kind of the lattice work and the structure for the business of it, where we go, okay, how do we grow this thing a little faster? How
Mhm.
do we, like you said, convert listeners into clients? So I think like let's dive into that because I know you've got some really good offers. I know that you've got things kind of dialed in there from your bit,
Mhm.
like like from what I've dove in via LinkedIn with the different ways we've interacted.
Mhm.
So who is your ideal client? And I want to kind of tie that back to your show and your content. And let's look at some opportunities maybe where we could optimize to work on that conversion a little bit or start to build that out.
Sure. So I used to, my catchphrase, I used to say, I help business professionals get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. And for this podcast, I'm calling it Enthusiastically Self-Employed. So I'm really focusing in on individuals who are self-employed, specifically coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. And I'm finding like some of my listeners they're usually like one or more, or sometimes all four of the above categories. And part of the reason I chose those four is I've served in each of those roles myself as I've launched my business. So a bit of the podcast is like my journey, but it's also bringing in guests who are speaking to coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors as well.
Okay. And when you get a hold of your ideal listener and start to help them out, like what are you doing via LinkedIn? Are you helping them like optimize their profile? What kind of services are you kicking out there to people that are like, all right, it's time to hire Brenda?
Yeah, great question. So it's a variety of things. It's one-to-one LinkedIn coaching where we'll get on typically a Zoom call and we'll go through their profile or their company page from top to bottom, focusing mainly on profile optimization, but also looking through their activity feed, looking at their company page. And it's the analogy I'll use is like it's kind of like a mechanic. If you pull up to a garage and your car is making all kinds of weird noises, even before the guy's lifted up or the woman has lifted up the trunk and said, "This is what needs to be done." They already have an ear for like this is the carburetor and this is this belt and that type of thing. So I can usually tell within like 30 seconds of looking at a profile where we need to change the dial a little bit and amp up the messaging and things like that. I also do on an individual level. I've rolled out online courses. So part of the launch of this podcast was based on I had a new course I rolled out at the beginning of the year called The Recipe for Social Selling on LinkedIn, targeting the same audience, coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. So there's really two paths I see for listeners coming in to work with me. One is to engage with me one-on-one through coaching or profile optimization, and the other is coming in through my course and enrolling in the online course.
Okay, perfect. Now to kind of go from your offers back to your show and your audience and kind of building that, what I call community client bridge. Have you thought of, or have you started doing any sort of coaching style episodes? Like, I think like a LinkedIn audit or like something like that would be amazing content.
Not yet. And actually, I've been listening to your shows and I'm getting a lot of inspiration. And I'm thinking that would be a great opportunity, like bringing people in and even like I'm thinking of pulling in people who are already on my VIP email list. So it's not just like people I'm plucking from the crowd, but it's people who are engaging with me on a regular basis to bring them in. I haven't done that yet. And part of the reason, Adam, and I want to hear your feedback on this, is I've mainly been pulling experts from different areas to do interviews. And I'm trying to do interview with an expert and then just a solo interview myself. And I haven't thought about bringing a third item into rotation yet because I'm like, am I spreading it out too much? Am I doing too many different types of topics and varieties of talks?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
And that's one episode per week that you're doing?
So right now, I've got like a backlog of episodes, and prior to this series, I've been doing like LinkedIn lives for the past 3 years. So I've probably got 200 to 300 episodes, but I've been pulling from episodes from basically January to current. I'm only up to 10, and I think I've only used like 6 or 7 my interviews so far, and I probably got another 20 to 30 I could pull from in there. So right now, it's really just the production work. I'm trying to do 1 or 2 episodes a week. I'm getting 2 out a week at this point, though.
Okay. So let's just look at the rotation then. I mean, I love the idea of Brenda solo episode, Brenda coaching episode, interview episode. And I would just go, so I'm a big fan of 2/3 expert positioning for us as service
Okay.
providers. And that would give you that exact magic number. And and that coaching style episode is just that nice blend. There's another person on there. So it's kind of like an interview, but you're coaching them and you're providing value to them, and they represent your ideal listener, which is like the crucial thing, because the mistakes they're making, guaranteed some of your listeners like, oh my God, me too. I'm doing that same stupid thing that she just said, is disrupting her ability to grow or LinkedIn. So I think even though you've got that giant backlog, like I don't think you necessarily need, I mean, that's a good thing to have. You've got that as a resource, keep that in the mix. But I like the idea of solo coaching guest, and then just keep that flow going. That's what I would personally do. Or you could do, like, what days of the week have you been releasing on?
I'm embarrassed to say there's not a specific
Okay,
date.
so a little bit. Okay, that's fine. That's
it's
fine.
Sometimes Sundays and Wednesdays. Sometimes it's Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, I feel like because it's a baby podcast, it's just kind of getting up and running. I don't know if people are going, when's the next show? Like, it's Tuesday. Where's Brenda's show? And I feel like I'll get more structured as it moves on.
Yeah.
But you tell me if that's wrong. Do I need to be like every Sunday and Wednesday to get into listeners' ears, or is it more important that I'm just publishing content on a regular basis?
Well,
What do you think?
This is a good thought. You're asking great questions here. So one thing off the top, I would try to avoid weekend episodes, Saturday, Sunday episodes. The optimal days for release are Monday through Friday, especially Monday through Thursday. Friday is a little iffy. Like, I've always thought about scooting my podcast audits up to Thursday, but I just haven't gotten there yet. But and that's just like from podcast listener stats of when our most shows listen to. And there's always that like algorithmic sweet spot, but Apple and Spotify will push it out a little bit more on the day of release and then 72 hours after that. So if you release on Saturday, less people are listening to shows, less people are searching shows, you're going to get a little bit less of a impact from that. So, and I do think it will help, like just getting episodes out consistently each week. That's priority. I don't care what day it is.
Okay.
Next level of optimization
Mm-hmm.
is we create the listener pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, my listeners know every Tuesday, every Friday, every Tuesday is usually a solo, sometimes an interview, and then Friday always a podcast audit, and that's just the rhythm because I want to get in their life routine. That's one of the superpowers that we have as a podcaster. If somebody knows and they can bank on it every Tuesday, here comes my buddy Adam, and then they download that to their phone and they listen to it every Tuesday when they drive home or while they work out or Wednesday
Mm-hmm.
morning when they walk their dog. Like I'm in their pattern, I'm in their routine. And if I'm randomly doing that, I'm not allowing that magic of the routine to happen. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
That totally makes sense. Yep. Okay.
So it's just kind of optimizing and making sure that we're, hitting sometime between Monday and Friday, finding days that work for your schedule, getting a good content flow as far as like recording interviews, batch recording, coaching episodes, whatever you need to do, and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of have that rollout happen. So that'd be a next level optimization. I wouldn't stress out about it too much. Just getting weekly content out. That's the key right now. But
Okay.
that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the next step. But I think kind of going back to that coaching style episode, just a real, I think it could be a lot of fun where
Mm-hmm.
you do even do like a 10-minute episode. Like in 10 minutes, I'm going to focus on one thing you should optimize, one thing that you could change to optimize your LinkedIn profile, and it's going to make a giant difference. So
Mm-hmm.
just like, because with you, like that's part of what you're selling. So I don't want to do like a complete
Right.
breakdown.
Yeah.
And I know people always get worried about that, but I think with you, it's almost like a challenge for Brenda. Like, what can she deliver in just 10 minutes? A 10-minute LinkedIn profile audit. And I'm
Yeah.
going to focus on one thing that will make a huge difference. And you just hone in on that one thing and you talk about it. And with that, I'm sure there's all sorts of things that people mess up on LinkedIn profiles, but you'll start
Mm-hmm.
to repeat topics and don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Like I talk about very similar things every single Friday episode, but it's always from a different perspective, always a different angle because of your experience, how many episodes you've done, what kind of business you have. So it's just a
True.
little different perspective. When I'm always talking about download growth, making money, or audience engagement, pretty
Right.
much.
So what do you think about when I do these coaching style episodes, Adam? Should I ask people what is the one thing you'd like to focus on, or should I say, do you want me to pick something? Like, should I give them the option, or should I just say, here's the glaring thing that's jumping out at me that you need to focus on?
Honestly, I don't think either is wrong,
Okay.
but I think it's just like, to me, if I'm listening in, I want you like out there headhunting. Like I want you like scanning
Mm.
that thing. Like this is the thing. This is the low hanging fruit. If you just change this, it will make a difference
Okay. Okay.
because you're the expert
Mhm.
and that 10-minute clock is running. Can she do it? Can she deliver it in 10 minutes
I
and give
like
them
it, and I like
something?
the thought of, like, 10 minutes too, because I worry. I mean, I sometimes will even get in a discovery call with a client, and it ends up being a coaching session, and I get off the phone call, I'm like, "Well, they're not gonna book with me because I already gave them,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
part of what they need to do," and I'm starting to dial that back, but I like the 10-minute because 'cause it'll force me to be brief and succinct and not. I'm a helper, and I always feel like I gotta give them a little bit more, a little bit more, but if it's a 10-minute segment, I think that would force me to be brief in my response too.
I agree. And I mean, you're preaching to the choir on that discovery call thing.
Mhm.
So I like that. Like, it's like, all right, we got 10 minutes, and in your onboarding information, we've just got to
Mhm.
be clear about that. Like, listen, I'm recording. This is a piece of content that's almost like a personal challenge to me. Can I help somebody in just 10 minutes? And
Mhm.
can I deliver? So we're going to focus on one thing. I'm going to look at your LinkedIn profile and I'm going to find the one thing that I would like to see you optimize to really that I think will make a huge difference. And we're
Okay.
going to dive deep on that back and forth, and that they know they're showing up for that. And yeah, that's the way that I would totally do it.
Mhm.
Now, starting out, you could also pull some of your current clients in and almost do like a client journey, or like a, not like, I hate to call it a testimonial episode, but basically it's like a before and after. I think that would be really cool too, where you're like, oh, Adam has been my client for the past 2 months, and here are 3 things that we did to optimize his profile, and what kind of results have you seen so far? And have a little bit of a back and forth there. I think that's another
I like that.
style, yeah, of this
Yeah.
type of an episode that you could do, especially starting out, because people, it is hard. Like,
Mhm.
I probably need to mention this more often, than I do, because I just preach coaching episodes. Coach, do them, just do them. They're
You're
magic.
right. They're easy.
Yeah, they are magical. Like
Yeah.
this is the magic in my brand and in my business,
Hmm.
but they're hard to get going. Like you got to
Hmm.
chase people down, and everybody starts off with a small or small-ish audience,
Hmm.
and you got to kind of build that street credibility with people to get them to come on your show. So there's a lot of chasing down. There's
Yeah.
some no shows. There's like can be a little rough and a little bit disheartening sometimes. But I'm like, if you can get to 25 to 50 of these things out on your podcast feed,
Hmm.
it is business magic because of the expert positioning and the relationships. And it's
Hmm.
cool content that you just get to be you and think on your feet. And it's, for me, I could do these all day long as my stupid internet holds out.
Right.
Uh, and like it's just cool, it's cool for me to do and just riff a little bit and just
Hmm.
shoot out ideas from my idea factory brain and let's see what happens. So
Can I
I
ask a
think,
question too?
yes, of course.
So, I mean, right now I'm using Buzzsprout to do my publishing, and Buzzsprout gives you some stats. And I just had somebody email me the other day because I'm on the radar now, and people are like reaching out to me with their podcast services. And the one guy is like, "Hey, we noticed you're ranked 72 in the Netherlands," and I'm like, "I'm not in the Netherlands. I'm in the U.S. and I don't think this is. It's a paid subscription service, but should I worry at all about rankings at this point? And it,
No.
and how should I be promoting, I guess, the podcast right now too?"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, rankings are cool, but there's just a lot of BS out there with the
Yeah.
rankings. And there are different charts, and certain charts you have to be signed up for the service to be on the charts. And so it's kind of skewed. And people are like, I'm number one in Estonia. And it's like,
Like, I know in the Netherlands.
yeah,
I mean,
like,
I'm kind of looking honestly, what I'm doing right now is Buzzsprout. I look week over week. Did I do better this week than last week? That's really what I'm doing. Is
yeah.
that okay at this point, or should I be like looking at something different?
Yeah. Okay. So, like, when we're comparing podcast numbers,
Hmm.
like, it's cool to be into it early on. Just don't beat yourself up about it because it'll be kind of weird at first. Like,
Yeah.
there's a little
Okay.
bit, like you said, you're in that honeymoon period where now you're a
Hmm.
newer show. You may get some initial love from the algorithm, which happens with new shows, new content. And then eventually that may die off a little bit. And you may see a little dip, even like, wow, I was doing 50 downloads per episode. Now I'm doing 35. What the heck happened? And people will freak out and be like, is my content terrible? Am I offending people?
Right.
And we don't need to stress out about that. Like the first, again, year of podcasting, you just need to be podcasting and just
Okay. Good.
getting reps in. Not,
Hmm.
I don't love month to month comparison. Like your first 3 months, we should see a nice steady uptrend, or at least not a giant down plunge.
Hmm.
Then we got to go like, all right, something happened here. Something is weird.
Hmm.
And then it may be kind of up and down, stock market.
Yeah.
But then once you get a year under your belt, I love year to year comparisons. So looking
Mm.
at May 2022 versus May 2023 and go, okay, my percentage of growth was here. And I always look at year over year personally. I'm like, if I'm up 25 to 50% year over year, awesome. I'm
Okay.
loving that. I'm loving that
Okay.
because you'll notice seasonal download trends as well, where any pattern disrupt will mess up your download trend. So when kids go to school, when kids get off school, winter vacation, spring break season, all those are listening pattern disrupts where if they're
Mm.
used to driving their kids to school and listening to your show, all of a sudden their kids aren't in school and they have to find a new rhythm and a place to insert your audio. So you'll see little dips and dives, or like beginning of the year,
Yeah.
you'll see an uptick because people are doing their New Year's resolutions and they want to grow their business and do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So there are natural trends where I'm like, all right, let's compare January to January. Let's compare November to November
Okay.
and just look at trends that way. So first year,
Mm.
just log stats, general growth is great. And then start doing year over year comparison. As far as marketing it, what are you currently doing? Obviously, I assume you're putting some stuff on LinkedIn, right?
I am, and I've been like dabbling it out a little bit. And I had a friend who launched a podcast. This was pre-pandemic, and I remember she did like the whole thing. Like she did a launch party, and there was like a social media bliss, and there was postcards, and there was all. And I'm like, I was doing this at the same time I was launching my course. I was kind of getting this out, and I decided I was stressing out so much about what am I going to do for the podcast. I'm like, I just did a soft launch, and I honestly I did before the show launched. I had some different cover graphics, and I put it on LinkedIn, and I said, pick which cover graphic you like the best. So I had my audience all going on that. And then after I picked the cover graphic, I said, here it is. And by the way, the first show's up now. And then I've got an email subscriber list of about 3,800, and I've dropped a couple episodes in there. I don't have a regular email dedicated to the podcast just yet. I'm going to start one like once a month. Here's the latest shows. I've seen some people doing like when they have a new show publishing for the week, they'll do like a one-off email on that. My challenge is I'm already doing a lot of other emails with my clients. I don't want people to tune out and say, oh, here's another thing.
Yeah.
I could have them like opt out from podcast communications is one route to take. But so it's mainly through LinkedIn and then through my email list. And I'm also active on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So I'm trying to create like the audiograms and push out episodes and tag in my guests on those.
Good. Good. Yeah. I'm a big fan of my 72-hour marketing window. So you release a new episode. I want 5 promotional assets to alert people of the episode or to intrigue them to listen to the episode within 72 hours. So if you do, some stuff on LinkedIn, some stuff on Instagram, a newsletter, whatever, like different variations of that, 5 and 72 hours. And that takes advantage of the algorithm. And just doing that will help with audience building. But with your email marketing, I'll challenge you a little bit.
Okay.
Because people don't think about this, and it's not a natural thing, but it's something that really can be effective for your business. All right. So if you send an email to your clients and you talk about a topic that you have even mentioned on the podcast, link it as like, hey, and by the way, if you like this topic, or if you want to dive a little deeper, I've got a full episode on it, link.
Okay.
And so that's a soft call to action to that episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All your funnels for all your stuff, same thing. Go back and look through any email funnels that you've got and be like, I actually build my funnels with episode recommendations. So if I've got an 18 email funnel, I'm going to sell on 3 to 4 of those. So on 13, 14, 15 of those emails, I go, what are the 15 episodes that I want this person to listen to? And I form those emails based off of those episodes. And so I'll have the episode topic and I'll talk about it for a paragraph. I'm like, and if you want to dive a little deeper on this, check out episode blah, blah, blah. Okay. And it's a nice, easy way to promote via email marketing. And it's just an extra value add. It's not like you're not selling them anything. It's
I kind of like, I feel like podcasts are sometimes easier because it's not like, okay, then book a one-to-one LinkedIn coaching call with me, which starts to feel a little salesy and a little pitchy versus like, I'll do that right now in my email newsletters where I'll say like, I'll introduce a topic and I'll say, read more in this blog, and I'll direct them to the blog where they can read. And it's there, it's free for you for the taking. But I like and I do have some email sequences set up. I hadn't even thought about that. So layering the podcast episodes in there, I think it'd be a really easy.
Oh, it works so good. It works so good. And that way it's an extension. And all of a sudden they went from email. Now you're in their earbuds. Maybe they're binge listening. They've listened to all 10 episodes. Like, when is Brenda going to put out another freaking episode? I need more of this. Same thing when you speak. If you speak on virtual stages or real life stages, when you're doing slides, link, you can, QR code an episode or just like name drop an episode. If you talk about a certain topic, on the slide, I do this all the time where I'm like, for more, check out episode blah, 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 podcasting business school, take a screenshot. I see people out in the stands with their phone in the seats,
holding their phones up.
I'm like, got another subscriber, and I'll, name drop 5, 6, 7 episodes. And all of a sudden I'm walking out of that conference in those people's pockets in their cell phone because they're going to listen to those episodes. And that's a huge advantage they've probably heard 40 people speak at this conference, but I'm in their phone. They're listening to my podcast.
You just made me think of another question. And I don't know if
go for it.
So on LinkedIn, I know data in and out. I know how to look up followers, connections, viewers, comments. But on podcasting, I feel like it's like I'm walking into a Home Depot store and I don't know where anything is. And I just want to get out there as fast as I can. So I'm learning all about podcasting right now, but I know how I can look at my downloads. Is there a way we can see our subscribers or we can see our subscriber count?
Not yet. Apple doesn't give up the goods on subscribers or followers, as they call them now. They've hinted that would be coming. It'll probably be a paid service. And, just looking at numbers, That's going to be like
The
the main
downloads is
focus
the
point.
best
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be good for now. So I wouldn't
Okay.
stress out about anything past that,
Okay.
but
Okay. Good.
cool. All right. Now I feel like we've got a whole bunch in, we've packed a lot of knowledge and action steps into this. I want to make sure you get to shout out your brand and your show. So Brenda, if people want to dive into your world, where do they go?
Sure, absolutely. So again, Brenda Meller, my podcast is called Enthusiastically Self-Employed. And yes, I am enthusiastic about being self-employed. And I invite anyone listening in, if they're a coach, consultant, speaker, and or author, or if you serve those communities and you're interested in coming on with an interview with me, let me know. And thank you so much again, Adam. This has been an absolute blast.
Yes, I'm excited to see what you do. You got a great thing going, great traction already. So now, if any of you out there want to join me in the Podcasting Business School podcast audit hot seat here, like my pod pal Brenda, just go to the website podcastingbusiness.school, get signed up, and get on my calendar, and you can be world famous like Brenda Meller. All right, so as always, lots of things to think about, lots of action steps you could potentially take. If you had that nugget, you're like, oh, I got to do that, then take action, implement, and get back to me. Let me know how it goes. And with that, Pod Pals, I will send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.